Hey, I'm Danny DeSatnik, and this is a conversation with three underrated creators. These creators are creators that I wish I came across when I was in university. Now, granted, what they're doing right now wasn't around when I was at university, but I wish there was something like it when I was at university. These three creators take a question and show their research process and take you along the journey from question to answer. It's rooted in education. It's rooted in learning, but each of their personalities comes across in such a tasteful and comforting and kind of entertaining way that each video, even if you're there to learn, you definitely walk away feeling some type of connection. These creators don't create short form. It's purely long form. They have a Patreon too, where they have a podcast. They also have a Substack they write to keep in touch with their community. They have a couple products. They've done a couple really cool things for different production companies or different TV channels that I'm sure you'd know. And so I want to get to this conversation because it's not really about me here. It is about these creators. It's always been about the creators. And there's some really funny stuff that ends up happening in this conversation. Before we get there, I want to say thank you because this is the last episode of Creator Culture that I'll be hosting. Creator Culture was an idea. It was my baby 2.5 years ago, coming up with the idea, deciding to start a podcast, didn't even know where to go, what to do, and just started, reached out to people, got them online, and started to have conversations. And those conversations at the beginning were really, really awkward. I think I was listening more to my own thoughts than I was listening to the guests' thoughts, which is a horrible way to run a podcast, for a long time. And then slowly started to really enjoy the process and slowly started to tap into the things I found so interesting in the creator without having to set out on what I felt other people might want to hear about the creators. And maybe that's a bit selfish. I have a feeling that the things that I was so interested in were also things that everyone else was interested in, or a lot of other people were interested in. This podcast gave me new friends. This podcast gave me new perspectives and new core memories. And I will be forever grateful. I definitely will be going far from the podcasting game, trying to drum up something new. Still within the creator space. But for now, these past 80 episodes have been incredible. And so thank you for sitting through. This is your first episode. Welcome. If you're a continued listener, thank you for joining us along the journey and tapping into these super cool stories and perspectives from underrated creators. And for the last time, let's get to the good stuff. Here's my conversation. Sabrina, Melissa, and Taha of Answer in Progress. So your header on your Twitter account.
My header?
Your header on your Twitter
no.
account.
Oh, no.
Is...
I don't know what it is.
I think
it's changed so many times.
I think it's, well, right now at least.
No. My header is the same every time. My bio changes weekly.
Gotcha. Okay, well, the header for YouTube, if you don't know, I think it's someone else's tweet, and it goes, how does every YouTuber have a connection to Taha?
So you've kept that.
So it's actually not a tweet, it's a YouTube comment.
Oh, it's a comment.
On someone else's YouTube channel. And I wasn't in that video.
Wait, what?
That's why it's so funny to me. I'm not in the video.
What video was this on?
It's a Jarvis Johnson video, and he's just doing a Jarvis Johnson video. But at some point in the video, there's a screenshot of his Twitter, and he's just scrolling through his Twitter, and my tweet is like the first one in that like screen recording. And so in that one moment, some commenter has been like, why does Jarvis Johnson know Taha Khan? And he's like looking for explanations.
That's wild.
So why does Jarvis Johnson know Taha Khan? Does Taha Khan know Taha Khan?
Oh my God. I was about to ask, what question are we going to answer by the end of the podcast? And I think maybe that's the question that we should answer.
Yeah.
Concerning for me.
This is an intervention.
Yeah.
We've flown you all the way from the UK to answer this question.
But I've heard, I think it was somewhere else that I think it was one of you two. Oh, you know where it was? It was on your live stream back when you first actually announced the channel. And one of you two said something like, or there was another comment. I think someone was like, how does Taha know everybody? Or why does Taha know everybody? Or something like that. And so I want an answer, man. Why is it that you have a connection to every YouTuber? Why is it that you know so-called everybody?
Oh God, I've
Explain
been asked to
yourself.
explain myself.
Welcome to a
my
Vox
whole-
explainer video.
My whole existence. I've just been around. I've just been doing YouTube and YouTube related things for 10 years, 11 years. So, and the other thing about me is I like helping people out. So I think people now, it seems like, oh yeah, everyone knows Taha Khan, but in reality, it's like a handful of people.
I think that you are selling yourself short, or you just don't know why people know Taha Khan.
I think that's the reason. I think the reason is
I guess you're really underselling what you mean by been around. You've been around temporally, but also in any physical location. You're like a plant. You're just there. You're like the first one there, and then you only leave when the room is empty. You're always the one you're like the one turning the lights off.
That's an interesting way to say you are social.
yeah,
No.
I'm a massive extrovert.
Nah, he's a freak, bro.
Yeah.
He's a robot.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's part of it as well. Like I've been around like just in terms of years, but I'm also so social. Like I'm just such an extrovert and love talking to people and love just like being around. So if there's like a YouTube event, I'm there. I'll be talking to people, and it doesn't matter if it's like 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. I'm there. If the function is happening, I'm still there. I'm talking to people. So I think people also just know me because I'm just the guy who's there. Like,
Yeah. And it's not just YouTube events. Sometimes you'll say that you're at the most random thing. Like you were at a technology startup incubator. We're not a technology startup.
no, yeah. I mean, I will just do things for the vibes. Like, truly, like there was this one time where the UN flew me to Latvia to talk.
What?
And I was like, I
Wait.
guess I'm doing this.
I do.
Hang on,
remember.
that's
Hold on.
And I
unfact.
met I met the ex-CEO of YouTube's
I
mum
remember this.
What?
in Latvia. And I was like, I guess this is what we're doing
Susan's
now.
mom?
Yeah, Susan's mum. And that's when I discovered that Susan Wojcicki's sister
23andMe.
is 23andMe lady. She founded 23andMe. And the reason I know that is because her mum was like, yeah, my other daughter runs this DNA thing. And I was like, oh, cool, like 23andMe. And she goes, yeah, it's 23andMe. And I was like, damn, that's crazy. But yeah, I say yes to things, and I like to help people out.
So at this point, is Answer in Progress the only thing that you're working on?
Yeah. I mean, Answer Progress is the only thing I'm working on. But if someone is like, yo,
Uh-oh.
Sabrina and lock
Call
eyes.
HR.
Excuse
Call
me?
HR.
no. What I mean is that, like, if someone like hits me up and is like, oh, can you help me out with this thing? I'm gonna say yes if I have time. And I think that's why people know Taha Khan. Is like people have had a conversation with me at one point and like, oh yeah, that guy. But that doesn't mean people know me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's very Jay Gatsby of you.
I don't know who that is.
That's just for you guys watching who did an English class in grade 10.
Oh, is this the Great Gatsby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Leonardo DiCaprio is the great.
We're getting closer.
There was a film about him.
Yeah. Didn't it also have Spider-Man? Tobey Maguire? Was
Really?
that Tobey Maguire?
I haven't seen the film.
Yeah, he's in
It
it.
was Toby. Okay, yeah.
He's
To
in
me,
Like
The Great
Nick?
Gatsby sounds like a boring story. I'm sorry.
Well, you're not wrong. Because who really knows Jay Gatsby? Who really knows Taha Khan?
I don't want to be compared to him. Doesn't he like?
He dies.
Doesn't he die? Yeah. But yeah, that's like. I think that's the.
Spoilers.
I think that's the explanation. I think people I think the thing that people get surprised by is that there are creators in all different types of genres that I am friends with. Rather than like, oh, he makes educational type videos, so educational type creators probably know of him. And that's like the ecosystem that you exist in. But it's like I got friends in all different types of things because I'm excited about creators and this whole like YouTube thing in general. So I have friends from all different walks of creator life, I guess.
So you guys met in an elevator, which is the
did.
story that is always told.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is.
That's the company line.
Answer in Progress. We'll meet in an elevator. And what was the first impression like?
I thought this dude was weird.
And how long did it take for you to warm up and be like, oh wait, this
Still
could...
think this dude is weird.
Damn.
Sorry,
We're still working on it.
my
We're
bad.
getting there. We're getting
It's just
there.
me and you today. It's just me and you. We're good.
No, it was really interesting because the moment that you started speaking to me in that elevator, I was like, I understand that I am at a business event right now. It was at VidCon like ages ago. And I was like, this makes sense why somebody would do this. Would never be me though. But then once it was time to we were like, okay, it's time to start a business. There's this guy who is interested in making the same types of videos. And understandably, to run a business, you need to be able to talk to people. And I was the type of person who was like, an email? I'd rather talk. I was like, who's the one guy who could make all of this possible? I was like, that guy who talked in an elevator one time.
Was that actually it? Like you spoke in the elevator, you didn't connect afterwards. And then
we just kept running into each other because everybody knows Taha Khan.
listen,
Everybody I knew. I was just like, why is he always here? He's a plant.
Yeah, that did happen.
At some point, he showed up in Waterloo, Canada.
Yeah, I was like, I'm here now. So what's the deal? Yeah, it was like I spoke to you in the elevator. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really remember that.
That's crazy.
But mainly because I was speaking to everyone.
Yeah.
Like
I was just a rando.
I remember speaking to people
Yeah.
like in random places at VidCon. But then like you would bump into the same people over and over again, and at that point you've already had a conversation, so you have to acknowledge me if we're in the same room. Like it would be weird to be like, oh, we did have a conversation.
No matter how hard I tried.
Yeah. So we ended up like bumping into each other over and over again throughout VidCon, because we had mutual friends. And then
I think that during one of those times, we had like a conversation where we were like, oh yeah, we really want to make educational content that is like a little bit more vloggy, a little bit more personal, a little bit more like narrative driven rather than just like, here's an explainer. Like we were students at the time and we were like, listen, it's gorgeous. I love it. But I think that we could like freshen it up.
yeah, I feel like the explainer format, like this is also in a period where people weren't really doing like experiential type videos as much as they are today. And like educational content was so much of like, I'm going to tell you things. And if you're like at university, just gone to lectures and then you come home and you're like, I'm going to watch some YouTube videos. And it's like, here's an animated PowerPoint. It's like, damn, these animations are crazy, but it is just a PowerPoint. I am just listening to a person tell you things. And that can get like, it just feels very samey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you guys were going through university, how much did you all rely on YouTube?
None.
None.
Like, wait, when you mean like to watch?
No.
For like mental health and just sanity.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Well, I feel like that's a given. But on the education side, to learn stuff, was
Oh.
YouTube ever a source that the three of you used? Because I know there's like some mix between the things you study and then there was some stuff that was separate amongst the three of you. But was YouTube ever a source?
I definitely used it for a tutorial here or there where I'm just like, oh, I know I'm supposed to know this. Let me get the refresher for a second.
Gotcha.
But then what I do whenever I'm looking for like educational content is I'll click on the video that has like the most views, seems like it's on the right subject, and then I'll go straight to show transcript and I'll just read the transcript like it's like a blog.
Wait,
Because I'm like, I don't want to watch this whole video.
That is a life hack. And then if you do show transcript, you can Control F and find things.
Mhm.
And then if you don't understand what they're saying, you just click on that part of the video. It's very strong.
Wow.
I did use YouTube as like occasionally, especially for like maths. There are some, mid-40s Indian men with whiteboards,
Like
with the
Khan,
worst,
like Khan Academy?
with the worst cameras. Well, I mean, he's like American. I'm saying like someone who's clearly in India with the worst camera and a whiteboard, and it will give the clearest explanation, even though
Really?
like, oh yeah,
Really?
like I feel like there are just like so many just like random videos of sometimes it's like a 14-year-old kid who's like just like kind of explaining a concept for whatever reason. It'll be a YouTube channel with like 3 videos. One will be about maths and the other 2 will be about like Legos. Or it'll be like, a 40-year-old Indian man with like 7 videos about whiteboard, like maths on whiteboards, and then like 10 that just like random videos of India. And you'll just be like, that's crazy that you found this one
Yeah.
thing. It's like how to do the Edgeworth box in economics. And you're like, oh, okay. Like that's exactly what I need. So there were times where you'll just find like the random video, but I never used like Khan Academy or something that was like clearly designed as like a channel to teach you a subject.
Mhm.
So did it ever cross your mind of like, oh, I should fill this gap while you were at university? The gap of like, there is no educational explainer vlog fun videos that I don't want to just hit the transcript and learn something. Like I actually want to follow along
Yeah.
to learn something, but also feel kind of that comfort.
I mean, yeah, we did. Answer in Progress's first year was our last year in university, basically. So yeah, we didn't really know. We were like, we get that there's a gap here, but then we're like, we don't know what it's gonna look like. So
Yeah.
we just messed around for a year and then lost a bunch of subscribers. It was great. We had terrible views.
Yeah. I also think there's like a difference between like watching educational things for fun versus watching them for in a like a university environment. Like even at university, I would be watching things that I had a natural curiosity for, even if it was like an animated explainer. But I don't know if I would. It's like a different. I don't know how to describe this, but it's a different type of video that you want when you're like, I want to seriously learn this for a test versus I want to learn this for my own curiosity.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know what am I trying.
No,
I'm trying to say, but
I
like
hear you.
that's. I feel like those are two. Like Khan Academy is not something I feel like anyone watches for fun,
Yeah.
like fully for fun. But like you might watch a Crash Course here and there, and like Crash Course is only slightly different from Khan Academy, in that like Khan Academy gets into the nuts and bolts of like here's X and Y and here's how you do exponents,
Yeah.
and then like Crash Course will be like here's what exponents are, and you're like oh that's an interesting thing to know about.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it does.
Y'all had different degrees. I did not need to watch tutorials for my degree.
Did you use YouTube for yourself?
I use YouTube as like entertainment. The things that I watched on YouTube were like cooking channels. R.I.P.
Yeah.
Whisper in the wind.
R.I.P.
Because I think it's interesting when you come across creators, and not to say this is you guys with Answer in Progress, but it's interesting when you come across a creator in whatever field that go, oh, I wish I had this when I was younger. And it could be entertainment, it could be education. And it's almost like they've experienced the production before the production happens. Like they know what they want to see.
Mhm.
The world's already built. And now they're just giving it to their ex self or to their younger self. And there's 8 billion people in the world. So there's a good chance other people want to come on it.
Mhm.
When you guys got together, I think it's interesting that there's 3 of you, which means there's like 3 failure points or 3 more failure points at least than just an initial person going about talking to the camera, doing your thing. How did you come together to go, yeah, cool. Like we are all consciously good at diving into this thing together, even though it seems like the relationship was recent-ish. I guess you guys met in high school.
Yeah.
So like maybe not as recent, but how did you come together to be like, this is what we're going to do, even though these are 3 different people?
Melissa, would you like to speak?
Would you like me to talk about how I was dragged into this?
Oh dear.
She was also dragged.
Hang on, I gotta fix this. I think my mic.
No, I was like, oh, usually I could lean forward. I was like, I'm gonna smash the mic. I guess I'm just gonna lean back into it.
That's crazy that you protected the equipment by just dying.
It's a short chair. That's the first time that's happened in years.
I feel like I watched that happen in slow motion, but I'm pretty sure it just happened slowly.
Like I tapered off, and I was like, well, this is it.
You also accepted it. Half you could tell you were
Because there was a moment where I was like, oh, I can either grab the table and everything come in, or I could just go. And I went for it.
Yeah, at least you're good. Thank God you're good. That would have been...
Well, there's your clip. That's a short.
Welcome to the Creator Culture Podcast, where it's just a blooper reel, even though this is the only blooper that's ever happened on the show in real life.
Damn. Could have said this happens every episode, you know? So Melissa.
So yeah, Melissa, why were you dragged
what
into this?
did you do?
That's so ironic. Melissa goes, I was dragged into this, as if there's such emotional like labor with it, and then right away karma happens and Sabrina just goes flying back. All right, so tell us the story. How were you dragged into this situation?
Okay, so
Oh.
my that I
Did I unplug
I
you in the
think
process? Oh.
I think this is
Oh,
it
it
sounds
is.
like your
On my-
XLR is
Yeah, the XLR.
this.
Yeah.
She's having a tough time.
Hello.
Yeah.
There we go.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Well, you
Wait,
should let
wait.
him sit back
Yeah.
down.
I'm gathering my thoughts right now.
Yeah.
As famously in a podcast, the sound of it falling over.
I think, you know how Colin's, quick break, and then I promise we'll get back to you. You know how Colin and Samir sometimes, I don't know if you guys follow or whatever, but sometimes what they'll do is they'll go, oh, this video's up for 24 hours, and that's it. I think that's what I'll do with this clip. Is I'll just go like 24 hours for like all the super fans to see and consume and have fun, and then it goes away.
Beautiful.
I think you just keep it in the podcast.
I'm down. I'm game.
I don't know how the editor cuts around it.
That is-
Given we haven't given him a good like out
Well,
point or an in
we could
point.
be like, so Melissa, you were dragged into this. Fall over again.
Start from the top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
let's do it.
Should I hold on to you?
I'll be sad.
Wait, hang on. Can we just establish? Are we gonna cut it out? Because if we are, I won't reference it.
No, we have to keep it in.
Okay, great.
That's
Damn.
that's so much fun.
It's
That's
crazy.
so much fun. You know what you guys should think about? Now, then maybe this is my like business mind, but I wonder how you take advantage of this virality. Like, I bet you some of your super fans are going to hold on to this for some type of moment. Like, is that now a soundbite that you use randomly throughout your videos, and it's like only the fans that know?
The sound of like the clattering.
A woman falling.
Yeah, yeah. Instead of the original bomb sound, if you ever like drop something, it's that sound, and only the real ones know.
Like the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. Just shot of my legs up in the air.
I did. This is kind of off
Let's do it.
topic,
Let's
but
do it.
I hate that I know about the Wilhelm scream.
Why? We use
What?
it all the time in our videos.
We do?
Do we?
Yeah.
But like, I hate that I know it because I will be watching a movie that's like really engrossing, and then I'll hear the Wilhelm scream and immediately remember that an editor has edited this. You know what I mean? Then I'm just in the Premiere Pro project instead of like being in the film.
That's something I can't relate to because I don't make videos, but that's interesting. It reminds me of like if I played baseball competitively growing up, and whenever I'd go to a game, there'd be like something really specific that happens, and I remember it was always with the catcher, and he would do something, and it would completely take my attention away, being like, "Why did you do that?" And everyone's like, Who are you talking to? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, let's just enjoy the game." And I was like, "But he didn't frame." And they're like,
Yeah.
"What are you talking about?" And I was so deep in it, like that world was way deeper than just entertainment, that I had a really hard time. And now I've found that it starts to happen when I watch someone run a panel or do a live podcast. I just want to scream like, "Follow up on that question. Like, why did you ask him?" I have such pet peeves, but I get it. Like when you're so deep in something,
It's the burden of knowledge.
It happens
it is
every time I make a video.
crazy.
It's like because
The
you
Wilhelm
learn,
scream.
yeah, you just learn so much about a specific thing, and then
For sure.
you just know too much about it to just enjoy it normally.
yeah.
Oh
Keyboards
wait,
is that
it's
for
a
me.
burden for. I love it.
Yeah.
I love just being able to interact with the world like with a little bit more complexity. Although when I do touch a keyboard and I check the stabs on the spacebar, and I'm like,
Yeah, I'm exactly that. I'll be like, oh, this needs to be stabilized.
Sometimes
give me a
ignorance feels
band-aid
like-
right now.
Yeah.
All right, so why don't we go back? And I want to know, why were you dragged into Answer in Progress?
Okay. We were talking about how we all have like complementary skills, right?
Were we? You should just establish that.
Were we? I was trying to.
Establishing shot, you're all good.
I don't know. So Sabrina and I met in high school, and you'd been making YouTube videos for like a hot minute,
Too long.
a really long time, and I think there was a point in which you needed some help
Mhm.
with some of your videos. So I started producing some stuff for you, not related to. I'm not a producer full time. This was in high school,
It was in high school.
and
We were working with Red Bull actually with their like creator group. They were doing some initial projects because like Red Bull is for body and mind. They were like, we need a nerd. And I was like, let me do it.
That's so antithetical to the brand that they built.
Oh, I'll
Yeah?
take that personally. Thank
No.
You could never be a Red Bull athlete.
you.
No,
Damn.
that's, oh my
Sabrina
God, you guys-
extreme sport.
I'm going to let you go off on this. But no, like everything is extreme
Mhm.
from the things that I've seen. And I didn't know that they had this creator. I would have thought their creator stuff was like, oh, someone who,
Like, dude,
Mm,
perfect.
Mhm.
or, oh, not even. I'd say that's like too tame for them. I'd say like the guys that, have you ever seen my favorite videos? That guy that jumps off the mountain in the squirrel suit and then like goes in between like a hole in a rock that's like just enough to fit your body.
Oh yeah, I've seen
It's like that.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
in my mind, that's Red Bull.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Again, I'm sorry. I feel like we keep interrupting you. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, but anyway, so we were working together with these Red Bull projects, and
Yeah.
I was just like, I need somebody there with me to help me make sure that this like thing works out.
Yeah.
And so then Melissa, we were in film classes together and art classes together, and I was like, I trust. Please help me.
How do you remember that, Melissa?
No.
Yeah.
This part I wasn't dragged into.
Yeah.
I was like willingly
the
doing
whisper.
this.
Yeah, the whispering class.
I was like, yeah, let's do this. So like I was producing stuff for you and like shooting some stuff. And then that ended. We did 2 projects like that. And then we both went our separate ways in university. And then a couple years later, was it a couple years later? When you talked about Answer in Progress, you were like, I have this idea. Do you want to help do it? And I was like, sure, I can do some producing. I can write some spreadsheets. I can help you, like make some PowerPoints, do a little business plan. We can do that. And then it started. And then Taha came in somewhere at one point then.
And were you like,
Beautiful storytelling.
maybe this is,
I know.
maybe I got to get a couch for all of you guys to lie down with this question, but like, when you learned or you met Taha and you knew of his skill and you watched his videos, if you did.
I didn't know anything about him. We got on a call and we're like, we're going to potentially be business partners. And I was like, okay, cool.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I've met
Sabrina
you.
was definitely like the Nick Fury. Like
Yeah.
she was like, I'm assembling a team.
With the hands.
Yeah.
And so the feeling was, let's go for it. Like, even though you didn't know Taha, you were cool to just jump in and have some fun.
Yeah, I was like, we're in university. Let's try to make a project work together. And if it doesn't, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of designed to be like a last hurrah to see like, can we make like this portfolio piece and prove that this thing deserves to exist? And if we could make it work for us, that's great. But more than likely, could we sell this to somebody else, sell this idea to somebody else and see if we could do it for them?
Interested. Like a traditional production house, not like Nat Geo and Netflix type thing.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or
Uh-oh.
if it didn't go as well as that, at least we have something. Because like, you finish university and then it's like, what experience do you have to get your entry level job? Even though it's entry level, and it's like, let's go. But it's like, if we just have the experience of like,
Sure.
we ran this thing for a year, then it's like, we have something.
Yeah. So then, like you mentioned, like the whole Nick Fury moment. I think the reason why we worked so well together was because I knew very well what I couldn't do at that point in my life. Like, because I'd been doing YouTube videos for so long, I knew like, I'm terrible at socializing with people. I want to leave immediately. I'm very bad at disguising my facial expressions. I fall over randomly. It's a nightmare of a time. And I also cannot be beholden to my emails. I'm just terrible. I'm terrible at following up on things as a freelancer. I never sent an invoice. People needed to remind me that they owed me money. You know that situation? So I was just
No.
like, nope.
Cannot relate to the situation of
I'm the
someone
person on
owes
the other
me money.
end.
And someone's like, yo, can I give you money? Like, no.
Yeah. So then I was like, who are the 2 people I know and trust who can like, and I knew that like those were 2 things that obviously you need to run a business, somebody to make sure that you get paid and somebody to make sure that people want to keep paying you. And I was like, who do I know and who can I trust to like try and do this thing, make this idea happen? And like naturally turned to these 2 people who I'd met in various points of my life. And I was like, you guys, you're so much better at this. And then like together we kind of formed what eventually became like Answer in Progress. Because like I was just like, Vox? Can we do Vox? It really was that big of a ripoff. Like you could tell by our early thumbnails as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was also like, for me, Answer Progress is like 2 things. One, I was just a massive fan of the stuff that Vox were doing. And I was like, okay, if this doesn't go well, I can at least apply to Vox with this. Because it's like, yeah, we kind of did Vox, but bad. Can you help me make it good by like employing me? But then also everything that's different about Answer in Progress, and I think Answer in Progress is quite different from Vox. Everything different is like all of the things I was dissatisfied about the Vox content.
Yeah.
Where it's like, as a viewer, I wanted more of these things. So I'm like, what if I made the type of videos that I would ask Vox to make if I could sit the entity of Vox down in a room and be like, hey, can you do this more? And I think that's like kind of answer in progress.
Yeah, it definitely was answer in progress in early days. In the early days, we were very much like figuring out where we sit amongst other channels and like using that as a framework for what we were trying to make. But then like as time went on, especially like this year, I think, is when we were like, hey, what do we want to make? What makes us happy?
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the journey we've been on recently.
And can I ask, so what is the answer to that question? Or has that question not really been answered yet? Or is that in...
Well, you took the punchline.
Sorry. I was like, I gotta end off.
How do you feel? I feel like the answers might be different for all of us.
Mm.
Yeah, I feel that's it.
I feel.
Yeah, no, I think that the videos that I find the most rewarding are the ones that are extremely deep. Like the YouTube algorithm video I made, which is like almost 50 minutes long, and it took like 6 months to do. And I learned loads of things that I learned off the record and then couldn't put it in the video because there's no public source, and it was a whole thing. And I feel like a librarian in terms of how much knowledge I have about the YouTube algorithm. That was a really rewarding process. It's just right now, with the way the channel is, it's impossible for me to just do that full time because it's like, oh, 2 videos a year, like that doesn't really work. Like just the economics of that wouldn't work. But I've also started to discover other things, other types of videos that I also find really fun. And so I'm still kind of like exploring what it means for, I'm still kind of exploring what makes a video fun for me. So I haven't like got a full answer, but I know that one element of it is like a big deep dive.
Yeah. What about you two? What's the answer for you two right now? What are the things you really enjoy making right now?
One of my favorite I can say ways to make a video. That's not the right thing to say. One of my favorite things to do for videos is to go and interview people. Like I love talking to people about the things that they know a lot about. Like when we recently did a video together about pasta, and we got to go to like a place in real life, like an actual working restaurant, and talk to somebody who like just does this every single day, and they're so excited about the things that they do, and to like talk to them about the thing that they're passionate about is just it's like a really rewarding part of video making because you get to like really experience the joy with them.
Have you ever done a podcast?
No.
What are you talking about? We have a podcast.
Well, I mean, like
We have a
together we do.
podcast. We have a podcast that we
Yeah, she's
publish
like,
on
"It
Patreon.
doesn't count."
That's
just us
crazy.
talking to each other.
Our
That's not-
patrons are going to be so mad.
I was like, I wonder if
We
I
have an
wonder-
RSS link.
I was like, I wonder what Melissa's going to answer to this because I know it exists, but let me see what it says.
Okay, yes, we do have a podcast together.
No, to be fair, you barely talk on it.
That's true. But also, it's just us talking to each other.
She's like, I want to talk to experts. I want to talk to people who know what they're talking about, not you two.
They're looking directly at you two.
Yeah, and for me, like the thing that I've found that I really care about is whatever I care about in that moment. I had this belief like somewhere midway through the journey where I was like, I need to make things that really matter. Like people will care about them, and like I need to like be the one to make this message. Like, why? I'm not that person. I can't be the messenger for every single thing that I think people should care about. So instead, I was just like, what do I want to learn in this moment? And then the YouTube channel is just going to have to deal with it. That's how we ended up with the pasta video. I wanted to know why there's so many pastas. And then we ended up with like an interesting answer.
Yeah.
But we could have also just ended up with a garbage video. Doesn't matter. Matters to me alone.
Do you guys find you're at the point now where you're okay to take those so-called swings of, oh, this is really interesting to us or me right now. We don't know if it's in the meta. We don't know if it's along a trend, but like we really want to make it. Do you have the operations plus time plus financial standing to take some of those personal swings for yourselves?
I love that you both looked at yeah, I think like year one was us trying to figure out what makes a good video. Like it was just us trying to figure out what the format was, what we like to make and what we felt was a good video. And it was like a good time to figure that out because we were losing subscribers anyway. And it was our first year. So we're figuring all of that out. In year 2, it was like, okay, we kind of need to get views now because if we don't, then we have to get jobs because now we're graduating from university. The stakes are a lot higher. And that was the year where we got really focused on title thumbnails and thinking about how a video would perform and how the channel could grow. And that I think is the closest we got to caring about the meta and like trends and things like that. But even then, we had a pretty good separation between like how the video is made and how the video is packaged. And I think that came from a belief of like, anything can be interesting if we have found it interesting. So then it just becomes a way of selling it to people who are not yet interested in it, but could be interested. And now like we're in like the year 3 of Answer in Progress. And it's like, we found a good balance between the two. Sometimes we get a bit too obsessed with videos and then no videos go on the channel for 6 months. And then I have to have a meeting like, guys, we're going to go broke if we don't start making videos. I know that we all want to make these big videos, including me, because I was working on the algorithm video for 6 months. But I think we should make some other videos as well. And so like we've kind of like in terms of the finances and the operation side of stuff, this year we kind of went overboard in that this was the first year. If you think about it, like first year, no one had any money, but we're at university, we're broke college students anyway. Second year, it's like, okay, we need to start uploading stuff because we need a job. Third year, it's like, okay, it's kind of worked out. We have a little bit of money. So like, let's try and figure out a balance of the two. And now that's the year that we're trying, this year is kind of the year which figuring that out, the cadence of all of that. At no point do I think we've really been like, okay, we need to make things that do
There was
really well.
one point.
What was that?
There was it was the plant video where we were like, guys, people really care about plants. There's a lot of reporting about plants. Plants is like a growing trend. So we were like, I guess we're making a plant video. None of us cared about plants to the point of making a plant video. And guess what?
It didn't do well. It did badly.
The thumbnail is just a plant.
And then the word plants.
Okay.
That's my fault, to be fair.
Sometimes it goes the other direction too, though.
For sure.
Like,
Garlic?
I was just going to say that. Sometimes you're so passionate about something to the point where there's actually no subject and no story other than, I like this thing, and that was the garlic video.
Yeah, so I think like the thing that we really learned, like riding those two extremes was like, okay, you can be really passionate about something. You need to be really passionate about something to make the video work. But you need to think about how you are communicating that passion in a way that like somebody who doesn't care buys into it.
Is there value in just that passion? Like, do you think you could create videos with that like deep sense of passion that you each have that's unsolicited? It's there for whatever reason. And people are going to find that passion so magnetic to the point where they want to just keep watching and see you go about that process? Or does it always have to be an answer to a question?
I mean, I think if you have an audience that trusts you, you can do that.
And it seems like you guys do.
I don't know. I think that our audience trusts, like, I think our audience isn't to the point where they can say, oh yeah, every video is a video that I'm going to love.
Sure.
Because we make so different videos.
Yeah.
And so there is still an element of like, we need to be like, hey, this is actually interesting to our audience.
I think there's also something to be said about like the audience isn't like this monolith. Like you're still making a video and there's an individual who is watching it.
For sure.
And you don't know how that individual is going to react. And like in terms of just like, can I just sit in front of a camera and then ramble for 40 minutes straight about pasta?
It's like,
maybe.
You're not Jenny Nicholson.
Yeah,
Some people.
I don't think that I'm charismatic enough. That's the problem. Jenny Nicholson, a genius, master of the craft. The Vampire
The Vampire Diaries video is so good.
I need to study up.
Yeah, no,
study up.
she's just
Yeah, if you want
incredible.
somebody who could just talk I just pop those headphones in. That's my life.
Really?
Happy.
Okay. The thing that when I was watching all the videos, I definitely picked up on that. And I heard through like reading the bios and then listening to you guys talk that there's like you each have your own lanes that you like to kind of sit in. you do cross over time to time. But as you grow the channel with you three, I think naturally as humans, like I will grow a parasocial relationship probably for one person more than the other. Not in a negative sense, but that's just the way it's going to happen. Do you guys ever think of, oh, like what happens if like everyone starts just loving Melissa more than you two? And now that everyone wants to see, or not everyone, they're not a monolith, but like a large majority wants to now just see Melissa's face, and you run into this typical media industry problem of, oh, we built this company around this name, but it's actually the individual that's getting bigger than the property. Is that ever something that you guys think about or have had to run into?
We did rebrand the whole channel. So like we've done this type of thing before, basically, right? Like, but also it's interesting, before I get into that, like it's also interesting because I think that way of like characterizing it, which I think is a common way of characterizing it, is not exactly true, because if you look at the behavior of the audience in aggregate, it's hard to say which one of the three of us is like the most popular, because when we put out a video, Melissa will just get insane click-through rate. Like her videos from in the first 24 hours to 48 hours are getting clicked way more than any of our videos. But overall, like if you look at the most popular videos, like the top two are Sabrina's videos. So then it's like, okay, what does that say about the channel? I mean, all it says is that I'm irrelevant. But,
I was like, well, yeah, I think he's going to the right place.
And then like if you look at my videos, there have been a couple videos that I've made that they don't have a view decay like the other two, in that like I will just consistently get a smaller amount of views every day forever.
Sure.
And so what does that say about the audience in general, about my videos versus the three of us? So it's like all of us seem to have these like different behaviors with the audience, and that's across like subscribed audiences and unsubscribed audiences. So like in terms of the data, it's hard to parse like exactly what that means, but I think that just means that people have a different relationship with the three of us. For sure. And that's cool.
Yeah. And then data aside, like maybe it would be like a troublesome thing if you're like running one direction and you're like, Harry can go solo whenever he wants, guys. Like we're at risk. But the thing is like when you are three friends running a channel, having one person succeed is just like nice, rising tide and all that. Like you're just happy to see somebody find their footing.
For sure.
And it's great. It's also really good about the 3-person thing is fantastic in two ways that I think other people can just like kind of never appreciate. One is I can just absolutely shamelessly steal from anything that the other two do. So like literally,
I do it from your videos all the time.
Wait, give me an example.
So I think there are two examples that come to mind immediately. One is I remember there was a couple of framing or like just like artistic decisions in videos that I did in a video, and then the following video that Sabrina did.
He shot like an ultra wide shot with a bunch of space around his head, and I was like, that's mine now.
Yeah.
We're going to just put that in my video. And it's become like a mainstay across all of our videos from that point on.
And then there was another time, this is another example with Sabrina stealing from me, but like.
And the rest of the podcast is just going to be good.
I remember there was a joke that I made in a meeting about the video. And I was like, oh, this is a really funny joke. And I just like said it in the meeting. And then like when I watched the video, it was in the video. And I was like, oh, that's really funny. I didn't feel any type of way because it's our channel. Like who cares? And it's like, those are two things that like, if you're talking to other creators with other channels and like, there's just another thing to navigate. It's like, oh, I'm just wholesale ripping off this bit that you did in your video. Or I'm just going to steal this conversation that we had that was funny and just like rewrite it and have it as mine and then say it in a video. It's like there's like a zero sum, like I'm stealing from you or taking from you in a way that doesn't feel like it's fair. But if it's your own channel, like great.
Yeah. At that point, we're just collaborating.
Yeah,
writers room.
It's like a writer's room. So that's fantastic. Like
I know exactly what joke you're talking about.
I don't remember.
It's the prefrontal cortex joke. It's in the Twitter video. Not the Twitter video. It's the joke where I made about Twitter. It's fine. Ignore it. We don't need to explain.
I'll ask you later.
But I think it was Japanese internet. Maybe.
Melissa, when was the first time you went on camera? Because you said you hadn't made videos before. And you're like, oh, like I'm down to help on the operational side PowerPoints, etc. Now you're a mainstay on the channel. And I think getting in front of a camera it's not an easy thing to do. And I think for a lot of people, it's not natural. So when did that become a thing? And like, was it easy to get into?
All right. So I'm going to return to what I said originally about how this came together and that I was dragged into this business. I wasn't dragged into the business part. I was dragged to be in front of the camera. I remember the
Interesting.
very first video that we'd worked on was the
It's pasta.
pasta.
Yes.
What's it called?
I taught an AI to invent pasta recipes. This was before GPT 3 and onwards.
Respect.
It was
Respect.
GPT 2, and it
Respect.
was so awful.
Yeah, that was the first video, and I think it was just a trial run for what it would be like to be on camera.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was never committed to being like a host on the channel. I was like, all right, something on the back end, and someone else will host it.
Mm.
And then,
And
made
then-
that video.
Taha and I were both like, damn, she's so charismatic.
Mm.
It was like very astonishing how likable you are immediately on camera. The funny thing is though is that there needs to be somebody who's in the room bullying her to make her feel like she's a person. Because the moment you're alone in the camera and you know the camera's recording, you become
So
a different person.
Really?
It still happens.
Really?
Yeah.
Still happens to this
I think it's because
day.
Melissa is normal.
Yeah, she's just
Like-
a normal human.
Melissa, because when you are in a room on your own,
Yeah.
it's not normal to talk to an object because
Yeah.
that's just not something
Not
you
normal.
do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like we can do that, but that doesn't mean. I mean, even I've started to become normal because now I'm like, okay, this is a camera, and I'm like, this is weird. But when I was younger, I could do that, but that's weird,
Mm.
and I think that means that Melissa had the superpower of being really charismatic in life, and then if she could forget about the camera,
Yeah, her little sister just in the corner roasting her between takes.
Yeah, that's how it happened for that video. For the
Really?
first 3 videos that I made,
Mm.
my sister would stand behind the camera to make sure that I didn't sound like a robot. She'd be like, no, do that again.
It's
Like-
wild.
Okay. My sister's 6 years younger than me.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going to say your sister's 6 years old.
No.
And I was like,
Hilarious.
hire
Yeah.
that. Like, that sounds like an amazing producer up and coming.
Amazing.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. Have you always, or have you ever identified as someone who could identify talent?
Are you a talent?
Am I a talent scout? I don't know what that even means, bro.
Well, it seems like you know how to bring the right people into the room.
Bro, it's just all vibes. It's all vibe checks.
Well, maybe that's what talent management is just understanding the vibe.
I always think that like the thing that I look most for with like people I'm collaborating with is like, can I trust them? Like I don't know if it's like, can I trust them and can they make what I do better? And can I trust them to make what I do better? And like everything in between is just details that could be filled in, whatever. But like with these two here, I was just like, they are built different. They will make me better at what I do. And it's very selfish. My approach to Answer in Progress was very selfish. They're like, oh yeah, no, it's all about like collaboration. I was like, improve me, fix my life, please.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like, if I was to answer that question, I would say I think I can, only because when I watch YouTube, sometimes I'm like, I wish I could invest in YouTubers because I would be so. Because there are channels where I'm like, bro, this person is so good, they're just gonna pop off in the next 6 months, and I'll tell everyone about them, and then 6 months later, all my friends will be like, that guy is like huge.
Carissa.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's like I think
I
like
that.
and for that reason, it's like the reason I was like, oh yeah, I'm super down for this is like Sabrina was already like a successful YouTuber. She had an audience, but also I was like, okay, Sabrina, I think is a brilliant storyteller who can make great videos.
Smile.
Turn the mic off.
Come on.
I'm just gonna.
And as a result, because I had literally never met Melissa or knew anything about Melissa, including the fact that she had produced arguably some of the best videos on Sabrina's old channel, which is now Answer in Progress. I didn't know any of that. I just knew Sabrina was saying, okay, there's this other person as well. And I'm like, cool, because whatever the vibes are, I'm down. So I don't know. I feel like there's so much luck, but also just like trusting people and then trusting trusting that their judgment is also good.
Mhm.
That like formed the beginning of this.
That's wild. Like it reminds me of, I have this conversation a lot with friends about talent, and is it just the talent that makes them have a massive long-term career? What is it? What are the different elements? And I think the biggest thing is the team. Like if you have people that you can trust, and you have people that you can trust with the things that you don't want to do and you know you're not good at, you don't have to think about those things.
Mhm.
And I think about this with Drake all the time. I think I've said this on the podcast like 50 times, because it's always the person that like sits in my head. Is he met his go-to producer, and he met the guy that runs OVO, his brand, in high school. And then I think he met his manager, or who was his manager, maybe a couple of years after. And that's as he's doing Degrassi. Like he's not thinking like, oh, I got to find the go-to producer. I got to find this. And that happens. And then he trusts them. And now he can think about things that the average artist who's starting can't, because they have to deal with everything. And it's so cool to see with you three, like you guys have a consistent feel to your videos, but you're each unique in your videos, is what it feels like. And you found each other at like a really cool, like young point, and it seems like you all get along really well. And you said you all trust each other. I know you're all going to make a joke, like as I said that.
No, I was about
No.
to say, we're like Drake, guys. It's weird Drake now.
That'd be interesting.
I also, as we were talking, I was thinking about the fact that like maybe it's just the fact that we decided to trust each other, and we are actually not that unique. Because
Yeah.
like
Interesting.
like as long as, I think that not trusting people just means that you will never have like a really collaborative environment, or have the opportunity to really make something cool. Like for the first, I mean, even now, I don't know if I should say this, but I mean, there was a time when there was like, we were just running off a pinky promise, like don't screw each other. And then after a while we were like, okay, let's write up a contract. But like that, plus the fact that like we were willing to just like be open and share everything, meant that we could do it. And but the other thing is just like all of us there are parts of the job of like being a creator that all three of us love, that the other two hate.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
It was very convenient finding each other. And it's only realizing that we work so well together in the process of working together.
And I'm sure when you meet other creators that are telling horror stories about the people around them, or how they can't find an editor, or they can't find the producer, they can't find whatever, you're like, wait, no, it's been 3 years and we're having a lot of fun doing it, and it seems to be going well. Just so unique.
Yeah.
Couldn't tell you.
Clearly.
It's been fun.
Clearly. How much do all three of you in your separate lives think about like coincidence and timing, and maybe like a level of spirituality?
I think that things like this present themselves to everyone all of the time. And then I think most people aren't able to recognize opportunities. And then the other thing is, sometimes those opportunities present themselves at times that you aren't able to say yes to. So I think personally, it's a lot of luck to get an opportunity to do something. Like I think it's like 80% luck. And then I think the other 20%, the other 19% is recognizing that you have just got lucky. And then the 1% is hard work, is how I would actually.
Bro started pulling out percentages and I got lost.
Like, I think it's
What do you mean
mainly.
you got lost?
You're
Says
the
the
math
numbers
person,
for a sec. Come on, you got lost.
I genuinely think it's like mainly luck, a little bit of recognizing that you've just got lucky, and then 1% of doing hard work. Because I think like there are so many people working hard, and it's like,
Yeah. I think another big thing is vulnerability, and willing to be vulnerable, to like be able to be like, I am going to trust you to do this, and it might screw me. This might ruin everything. And it's still like, well, we'll see what happens because I trust you. And like being vulnerable enough to ask people like, hey, I have this dumb idea. Do you want to be in front of a camera? Have you considered that? And it's just like doing all of these things that might scare you for one reason or another, and finding people who will do their best by you.
How?
I'm not even doing my best by her. That's crazy.
Oh, let's go.
Sponsored by Best Buy.
Sponsored by Hey You, the new reality TV streaming show, because that's what this is about to be. Someone's about to go at each other. How easy is it for you three to decide on adding someone to the team? I know there's a videographer or the editor, should I say. How easy is it to say, okay, we need this, and then for all three of you to come together? Or is there one of you who kind of makes that decision and you implicitly trust the other, like the two others implicitly trust that person?
I think that it depends on, well, one, I think all three of us are very cautious people when it comes to working with outside people. Like, we're very trusting of each other, but I think when it comes to bringing on like outside help, we're very like sure about. Like, it depends on like the role and how much pressure that role would be. Like for Joe, I remember we went through so many editors before. We're like, okay, let's stick with this and we like this person.
Because he's the GOAT.
He's the best.
He's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Answer in progress wouldn't exist without him.
No one has
Yeah.
done it like Joe has, and no one ever will.
What do you, I know there's like kind of joking in that statement, but then like serious in that statement. What is it about Joe?
Dude's just got an eye. I think it's a couple things. Like, one, it's the things that come with like the reasons why we trust each other. We trust Joe. We trust his creative voice. We trust him to like fulfill his responsibilities. We just trust him with his work. That's great. And I think the other thing is just like in the creator world, it can feel like, oh, everyone's just out here like they're grinding. They're gonna like, who's gonna use me and all that stuff. And like it happened at some point when I used to go to VidCon every year, and I was like, the vibe is off. I don't know what the vibe is, but I hate it. Then whenever I meet somebody where I'm like, the vibe isn't off. The vibe is nice. We're just here. We're chatting. We're just two people in a room together or on a Zoom call together. That's like the biggest thing. And I think Joe brings that alongside just being like an incredible person.
I would say there are two other things as well. One is that I think for me, the moment I was like, oh yeah, Joe is the GOAT, is one time I sent him footage and he sent it back. He was like, this is not good enough. Reshoot this.
Interesting.
And I was like, okay, like as an editor, I think if you aren't able to assert not only your own creative voice, but also be able to be like, this actually, like, I can't really work with this in a way that I think is good. And also I think that you can do this better. Like, I think that's a really strong and confident creative voice to have.
Yeah.
And then I think the second thing is that Joe is the most answer in progress coded person of all time. Like, if he is editing a video about a thing, like in the meetings, he'll be like, oh yeah, like I've started like making pasta. Or like, oh, I brought a keyboard and I've started building a keyboard.
Oh, I've started doing parkour.
Yeah. And it's like, he makes a video and then it's just like new hobby for Joe to do. And so like, he's just really invested in every video in a way that like, you can't really ask someone to start being invested in their job in that way. But that's just who he is as a person. He's like really interested in all of the things that we do. To the point where like recently he's been like, yeah, can you do a video on this? Because I'd like to get into it. So like, if you do that, then I can be into it easily, which is funny.
I find that, again, it's like finding those right people is so hard. Like you guys always speak about wanting to do videos that you love and find a balance between audience, like monetization, and doing things that mean something to you. But then to be able to continue doing that stuff, you also need to find the people that love the stuff that you're doing or see the vision that you guys are going about. And to hear that, okay, you found two and it worked really well. And now you found Joe and it's worked really well. Is there any part of you that's like, oh shit, like how long will this winning streak keep going on?
I do think that we do take the approach that's like, it's pretty standard when people are working with, starting out a new work relationship with somebody, especially. It's like we start off on like a trial basis. We'll work with them one time. If it goes well, we'll work with them another time. If it continues to go well, and one thing that we always do whenever we're working with somebody new is we're like, what did you actually think about working with us? Because like, we are a startup. We can be a little bit messy. We can be disorganized. And like, are we communicating properly? And we want to take that feedback into account so that we are better collaborators with them. And then also like being honest with them and being like, hey, this is my genuine feedback. This is something that like, do you think did you notice this thing that you could do better? Or did you notice this thing that could better fit Answer in Progress's voice? And I think like one thing that people might make the mistake of is like a company is like its own identity that's like rigid and everybody needs to conform to that, versus like especially with something as small as this, it's like we are like a living organism. Like our vibe might change as we add another person. And how will we change as a response to that? What can we learn from each other as a response to that? I use the word vibe so often.
I was going to say, that is how you define an organism. It's just vibes. Yeah. An organism is a thing where vibes can change.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also think that like it's not really a winning streak because it's just like we worked with a bunch of editors and then we found Joe.
Actually, Joe found us.
True.
Yeah, that's true.
Put some respect on his name.
Yeah. But also we worked with a bunch of editors that like we could have also hired. Like, you know, I think that like I don't know. I don't feel like it's a winning streak, so I'm not worried about it ending. I guess is why.
Fair.
Yeah, I don't think it's a streak in the sense that it's just something we're growing with other people.
Yeah. You've been doing this, all three of you have been doing this for 3 years, or been doing Answer in Progress for maybe a little bit over 3 years. And you released a couple products. You have like the Curiosity Journal, and then you have your Patreon, and you have some other media. You have your Substack, you have your podcast. Is there a next thing outside of media that you guys are excited to take on? Or is the journey right now, let's still keep making the best videos and reinforcing the community as best as we can?
That one.
Yeah, honestly,
I think it's that one, right?
Yeah. I'm looking across the table to make sure that we're all in agreement. Yeah, it's that one. It's that one.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, it's because like the only thing that like that makes this career, one, functional, and two, worthwhile is like the people you are making it for and the people you are making it with. You can only make it with people. There are people there to consume it. So it's like you gotta tend to your garden.
Yeah, I mean, we've only been doing it for 3 years, and it still feels like such a young
so new.
a young stage. So
Still feel like, oh, it's year 2, right, guys?
yeah. So to like
It's always been
branch
big years,
away
though.
from videos feels like too far in the other direction
Yeah.
right now.
And having done it for 3 years and getting started with that $50,000 grant,
Mm-hmm.
with everything you did with that $50,000 grant and knowing everything you now know, how would you have treated that money differently for the first year, if at all?
Yeah, we spent it on the company.
Okay, so we bought a yacht. No, yeah, like with the 50,000, it was like this was the year that we were like going to be graduating in, and so it was one of those things where a lot of it was just okay. We will spend it on ourselves in terms of like base salary, and then just like we bought cameras.
We did not get paid a base salary.
Right.
We didn't get paid money,
Cut all
bro.
of this. That is second year. I remember. now.
Yeah.
Okay. What did we do with the 50,000?
$50,000 for the most part. We spent most of it on like experiment. Correction. Okay, we got $50,000. It was a while ago.
I'm just smiling.
And it's also okay. So $50,000 initially. We all got ourselves some Osmo Pockets.
Big
Why did we
baller.
do that? That was like one of those things where it's like we have like some money.
$600.
What is? Sorry, of my naivety. What is an Osmo Pocket?
It is it's a camera with a built-in stabilizer. It's like really tiny. I think they use the same camera head on like the DJI drones as well.
Gotcha.
It's made by DJI and it's a
Gotcha.
pocket camera.
Yeah.
Got you.
So we all got it because we all wanted to make sure that we had a video camera, and we thought that we would be out on the go.
Not only that, we wanted to make sure
Right.
that we had a similar look to all of our
was
videos
gonna
because we
ask.
had different gear. Like we had all very different stages of video making. Like I had a Sony A6000 because I was not going to be shooting things. I was
Mhm.
just taking casual
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah. And we thought we were going to be out and about. It was the beginning of 2020.
Yeah, and we thought, oh, we have this like 50,000. We could do like little experiments where like we go to like Europe and like do a little video there, or you guys go to like somewhere in Canada and
Mhm.
do something. And so we were getting these little Osmo Pockets and like setting ourselves up for this, go into the world and like find answers.
For some reason, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So then we also wanted to experiment with like different platforms. So we started working with people to see what it would be like to work with a researcher, work with a writer, work with somebody to make short form video. Because everyone was like, you gotta make TikToks. We were like, I guess we gotta make TikToks. And so I would never call that money a waste. It never really generated profit in return,
Sure.
but it definitely like taught us how money can be spent and what it is like working with other people.
It was because the first year was all about figuring out what an answer in progress thing is.
Sure.
And so a lot of the money was spent on things to figure that out.
Mhm.
I should clarify though, not a lot of the money was
Spent
spent, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
a lot of
Weird.
the money was just it was just a way of us knowing that like if all goes wrong, I had a job at the time, Melissa had a job at the time, Sabrina was living off her savings, and it was like if all goes wrong, there is at least some money that we could like start paying ourselves a tiny bit to like just keep this experiment going a little bit longer.
Yeah, it was technically like it could have been pay, but we were like, let's forego it for now, because like we can kind of afford to do it for a year and see what happens. Yeah.
So I think that's what's interesting in this space. You hear this a lot of people being like, let's invest in creators. Like, let's put money to creators. And then there's others that go, oh, well, it'd be great if like a creator didn't have to think about anything and they could just create. And I'm always interested, like, who is the archetype of creator that the $50,000 would make most sense for at the beginning? I think the cool thing with you three is that it wasn't really the beginning, or at least for you two, it wasn't really the beginning. Like you had done it for so long that the reps were there. And now, yes, it was something new that you were trying, but that trying is like having done grade school to grade 10, and now you're just going to try skip a year, let's call it, and go to grade 12. Whereas the average person who's starting today, quick short form, maybe I've got 1 million followers, whatever it may be. Oh, here's 50,000. What do I do with it? Do you think it's positive to give creator or creators $50,000 and be like, hey, for a year or for whatever it is, here's 50,000, go do what you want with it?
I could say that if we didn't get $50,000, I wouldn't be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
I actually had already accepted an office job, and I was going to be starting at like mid 2020. And some other things happened.
Sure.
But like,
There was no office. We couldn't go in.
And crazy how 2020 was just stealing offices. I had a magician with offices.
yeah, but that $50,000 gave me like the mental push to be like, yeah, you have this, you can write off a year of your life. Just see what you can do with it. And like, it's not necessarily the money in pocket, although we wouldn't have been able to do a lot of stuff without money in pocket. But like,
it also gave us permission. Like it was like as much as it was money, and it was money, like it was just a gesture of like, we believe in you to the tune of $50,000. So like, honor this belief and this faith that we have in you. And yeah, because I think before we applied for the grant, it was like, yeah, we're going to do this thing, and we're going to kind of figure out how we do it. And then when we got it, we were like, okay, now we have it. So like we got it. So now we have to do this really seriously. Whereas before, I think we might have done it a lot more casually.
Yeah. We might have made like 3 videos instead of like trying to do it for like the whole year and seeing where it could go, and thinking about it more like as a business rather than as just like this project that we are going to try out. Yeah. It just changed the way we approach things. And I think like one, definitely money helps. Because, things cost money. But the other thing is like that belief, and also the fact that it can attract people who might not necessarily have the opportunity or the willingness to accept the risk of like, try this thing and you might screw yourself by the end of the year. Like we always had that little like, I'll leave this year. I might not make a lot of money, but at least I won't be purely broke. I could still pay my rent off of like the scraps that remain from this grant.
Sure. Yeah. Just for context, because we never really addressed it. We got a grant called the Super Patron Fund, which was something
called the Super Patron Grant, wasn't it?
It was
it's from the Super Patron Fund. Listen, he doesn't really talk about it anymore, so I don't know how much detail we really should be going into it.
We got this grant. It was set up by Jack Conte at the time, who's the CEO of Patreon, and it was just, hey, we're going to give you this money to enable you to become a full-time creator, and that's kind of what we did. Yeah, we were enabled.
Yeah, and like for how it should, like, do we think that it should happen for other creators? Yeah, investing in like individuals who are like, who are on that brink of just like whether or not, for whatever reason, they're on that brink. That $50,000 can be the thing that tips them into like, yeah, I'm going to do this full time, and they're going to create incredible things.
Well, I think that's what's interesting about Jack is that he's a creator himself. He's around creators himself compared to being the person who's, I see business opportunity and giving creators money makes money for us, whatever. He understood it. And I feel like he probably had a little bit of what you three have, where there's a little pattern recognition better than the average because they are that thing. And then him and his, I don't know how he chose it, but him and maybe his friends or the people in the fund were like, oh, we see something. in these three. Like, this makes sense compared to, oh, I'm a financier who made money in petrochemicals. Like, I think the creator space is cool. Hey, buddy, you make some fun videos that my kid likes. Like, here's $100,000.
Yeah.
So I think, and then it's interesting to hear you say, oh, I'm good at finding talent early. And I think it's because you're, all right, well, it seems like you're good at finding talent early, but at least it's like there's the pattern recognition there. And so if I think of a firm's trying to do this for other creators, it's like, get you three alongside so that you know the nuances that maybe no one else would be able to pick out. Is that fair?
I would say definitely. If a petrochemical company wants to give me money to give to other creators, absolutely, let's do that. But I was also thinking about how I think that money does enable like really great things to happen when you give them to creators, because a lot of the time that is one of the limiting factors. Early on in your career, one of the limiting factors is like, what is your voice? What do you want to make in that type of stuff? But once you start along that journey, like money can really help. And like, you know, some of the greatest examples of that are like SciShow, Crash Course, and SourceFed. All things that started from money that YouTube. There was a time in YouTube's history when YouTube was just like, okay, we need to have better content on the website. So what we're going to do is get loads of money. Like, it was a lot more money than the 50,000 that we had. And they were basically like, they went to traditional TV people and they were like, hey, here's, I don't know how much it was, but here's $1 billion. Like, can you start posting stuff on YouTube? And that's when we saw like the Jimmy Fallon channel and all of that stuff.
Interesting.
Right? So there was this like, YouTube was directly giving money to these traditional people. And then they had some money left over, like a rounding error or whatever. And they were like, okay, I guess we'll give it to like John, and we'll give one to John and one to Hank Green. And we'll give one to Phil, got his name. Philip DeFranco. And they were like, cool. And then we got Crash Course out of it, and like SciShow and SourceFed, which was the news thing that Philip DeFranco did, which was then sold to Discovery. But like, those are some of the like greatest things to happen on YouTube in that period of time. And those were made by giving creators a way smaller chunk of the money that was given to traditional out of this big fund that YouTube did. They've never done it again, but that's just something I like cropped up when I was making the history of the algorithm video.
Yeah.
Funny enough, actually, I think that like year one, when we first had the 50K, it was like a smidge too early, right? Like now, especially if you gave us $50,000, we're like, we know exactly how we're going to spend that. Then we were like, you know, how do we run a business? What is it like working with each other? Like, this thing now has like some sort of value. And like, it definitely made Answer in Progress possible. But in terms of like the most effective like dollar value, like, give it to us like year two, now. If anyone has $50,000.
Yeah. I actually think, yeah, you're definitely right. Like, the first year was a bit too early for us, but I think smartly enough, we didn't spend most of it.
Yeah.
Because we were like, we actually don't quite know what to spend this on. And it felt like a serious commitment to spend that much money.
And a lot of money.
Yeah. And so it was like, okay, well, what if we just don't spend it really? Because we have jobs and you're running off your savings. And if that situation can last for this first year, let's just do that and then keep the money for when we have.
When we know what to spend it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about this when it comes to the algorithm, because I think the algorithm sometimes in essence can be the grant of like, oh, you get the fame and you're getting the brand deals and the opportunities that maybe someone else isn't. Of what if the algorithm didn't work? This is going to sound really weird, but what if the algorithm didn't work for the first 2 years, for example, the first year of someone posting, but you knew like once you crossed a year of posting that plus maybe a threshold of 60 videos, you then had the opportunity to then really blow up, so that at least you have some power of, oh, did I like this? Did I not? How do I make this possible? How do I not? Is this really what I want to put in the world? I know their advertising model would never agree with that.
That is how it works.
That is how YouTube works.
How YouTube works.
Oh, you're saying that's how YouTube...
I'm saying that's how it actually...
You're saying like YouTube long form, this algorithm boom of TikTok and IG, etc.
Yes, I would say it still kind of works that way.
Really?
But it's a bit harder now. I think if we think about long form, it's one of those things where, one, if you think about the monetization, there are qualifications that you need to get before you get enabled for monetization, which includes, I think it's 10,000 hours watched, 10,000 minutes, something like that.
Wow.
There's a number of there's an amount that you have to have audience before they start enabling monetization.
Interesting.
And also you have to upload in a certain period of time and all of this stuff, right? So there's already this stuff where it's like, hey, you can't actually earn money from this until you have this like prerequisite. And then on top of that, if your videos are bad, they get shown to a very small portion of people. And so there's this way where the algorithm, it says, okay, you're ready now. Here's a video. And then like it goes viral or whatever, or it starts to get traction and all of this stuff. But that is the algorithm basically saying, you're not good enough, little bro. Like keep like figuring it out. And then when you figured it out, they're like, okay, cool, here's everyone. And like that might happen in like one second, or it might just happen over time across the year.
Sure.
But I actually believe that the way the system's designed actually enables that. I think with short form, you have the same thing, but the problem is it's way harder to figure out what it is that made that piece of content successful, because you might have accidentally, and this is a problem in long form as well, but if you accidentally gain success from short form or long form, you haven't figured out your voice. You've just accidentally stumbled onto something that people resonated with. And so if you accidentally stumble onto something that people resonated with, to me, that's like the petrochemical executive being like, here's the money. I don't really know what's going on, but here's money. And then you're like, okay, I have loads of money. And then you spend it on what's that short form swipe startup? Quibi. You have Quibi, right? It's like, that's if you accidentally stumble on money for some reason, because people are like, shorts are big, let's give this random startup money. But then you also have the people who are working on their craft, and then after figuring it out, they start to gain traction.
I do think that there's like there's definitely a qualitative component to it, but there's also like you also need to understand the game that YouTube itself is playing in order to unlock that. Or at least you need to be committed to a certain part of uploading to an online platform in order to like make it work, you know?
Yeah, like I think that it would be wrong to say, oh yeah, if you haven't got success on YouTube, then you haven't figured out like a good content or whatever.
Good content.
A good content. Like you haven't figured out like your voice or whatever, because there are people who have really strong artistic voices that don't get views basically. But I think that the thing that you need to figure out is not only good art and good content, but also then how to package that. And like I think there are loads of people, this is a bit of a tangent, but I think there are two types of people who then sort of like average out to become a YouTuber. One is the people who are like, their like natural inclination is like marketing. So they like know what people like, what's zeitgeisty, and how to like get people's attention. But they have no idea how to make content. They actually have no idea how to make anything meaningful at all. But they're really good at like figuring out how to get people's attention. And they come from that element, and they're like, I know how to get people's attention, but I need to make things of value. And so they start to learn how to make things of value, and they become successful YouTubers. And then there are people who like, they are just like artists, and they like love to make art or create something that is meaningful and has value in some way, but have no idea how to show it to people in a way that they understand. And so sometimes you're just, you know, and those people, what they need to figure out is like how to like have people come to them and be interested and click on things. And like once you figure out the other side, the thing that's not as natural to you, then the algorithm starts to work. But it is kind of unfair on the people who create a meaningful piece of content but don't know how to get it in front of people, because the other people are just really loud on TikTok and don't have anything to say, but they get loads of views. And then these people get 0 views but are making meaningful things. And so there's like an asymmetry. But I think the people who succeed long term are people who can do both.
I'd go deeper into this, but I know we've been doing this for a while. And I think it's actually been like an hour and 30 or 40 or some, or it seems like it. No, don't be sorry. I'm really enjoying this, but I think it's more, you have an audience who wants to see more videos, and you've got some interesting videos coming up. So I'm going to default to that compared to a podcast. But to end off, I want to ask about this. The whole channel is in progress. It's answer in progress always. Each video takes a question and then you're answering it. Is there ever an idea in your mind of, oh, we're doing this and there's going to be an end to this channel? Or is it always just going to, or as it, I can't say always because we're only in 2023 right now, maybe you guys do have time jumping abilities, but where does that sit in terms of finality, like Grey's Anatomy versus maybe like Breaking Bad?
I will say, when I am 40 years old, I do not know if I'm going to be making YouTube videos.
You don't
want to
be making a thumbnail face at the age of 40?
I don't know.
Holding something up, looking surprised?
I don't know.
Arrow?
Do you want to keep making things? Yeah, but who knows? I think that Answer in Progress is going to continue to evolve, and I don't know if it's always going to be just a YouTube channel, but for now it is.
Great answer. Done. Stealing it. Can I copy your homework? Thank you. Yeah, I think Answer in Progress, it's like, it's going to stay in progress. I don't know if at 40 I'll still be making videos, but
2032, January 14th. That's when the channel ends. Listen, let's
Stick
just leave it there.
I should
Stick to your guns.
I should do a director's cut, which is like all of this, where you go, no jokes. That's actually just my friend's birthday when he told me he wants to start a business, but no one knows that, and it just ends there, and then your audience goes crazy with it.
Answer in finish.
Answer in finish. Is there ever, or has there been series, like just movies that you think have gone on too long, TV shows that have gone on too long that you wish would have finished before going on too long? And this has nothing to do with like, oh, how then you view your content, but just out of interest. Why are these like nervous laughs in the background?
Have you heard of the show called Frasier?
No, never. No.
I actually haven't. Genuinely.
Really?
I don't know what it is.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know much about it.
Stop it.
What's Frasier?
Well, I'll show you guys later.
I have an answer to that.
Go.
Sherlock.
That's still going?
That, I mean, it finished, I think.
Yeah.
But the
Season
last
3 did not need to exist.
I think there's 5 seasons.
No, there were 3.
Or maybe there's 3, but it felt like 5 because they should have stopped. Yeah, I think season 1 was good. I think season 2 was good, and then the last, and then it just sort of, it's just like, I just remember, like, this is spoilers for Sherlock if anyone cares, but like, they like kill Sherlock at the end of it, and at the end of one of the seasons, and then the first episode of the next season is basically bringing him back to life by like saying, oh, he never actually died. He escapes death in these weird, mysterious ways. But like,
is it Sherlock or Moriarty that you're complaining about?
Sherlock. Sherlock dies. He falls off that building or whatever.
Right.
And then the next, they're like, oh, how did he do it? Like, how did he like survive?
Like a body double.
Well, they just like present all of these theories of how he survived, but they never actually say how he survived, and then they just move on. And it's like, yeah, like the show had completed. Like, it was sad that he died, and it was like, oh, it felt like there was so much more to give, and then they just like do more stuff, and it's like, what's this about? So whack. Why did they do that? But New Girl, on the other hand, had like 7 or 9 seasons. Perfect. So long, but so many good episodes.
That many seasons of New Girl? I thought there was only 5.
I think
it was only 5.
I think there's.
I don't know. The very last season, though, I love that they kept it.
Yeah,
Tale of 2 sitcoms, Seinfeld, ends perfectly. They covered all of the things that, like, what's the deal with? They found the deal with, and then they went to prison. Frasier, why did Daphne and Niles do that? It's just ruined the show, and then there are like 5 seasons after that. These are my 2 opinions. Thank you. I'm looking at both the cameras now. I don't know which one, but I'm right in both of them.
There it is. Guys, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on. And we'll see what happens. I actually forget the date. You say January 14th, 2032. Is that the date?
I think so.
You don't even remember.
That's it. January 14th.
That's how you know. That's how you know it's real. Is when it wasn't even Taha who was saying it. It was something deeper. It was some spiritual thing that was talking through him. Guys, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.